2022. First up on the agenda is just a report regarding the Harbor School resolution that we passed last month. The office put it in front of all the right people. We then moved it around through the PTA and the board over at Harbor School. And we've already heard back from SCA, Trust. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone. And we have a walkabout that we have scheduled on the 17th with all of our elected officials. We're moving very quickly to try and get this yard as part of the deal. As you know, we thought building 515 in the surrounding yard was the deal between the SCA and the Harbor School. We were subsequently notified that it was just the building itself and that the students would not have use of the yard outside the building. So we are all hands on deck trying to make sure that's part of the lease agreement that has yet to be signed but looks imminent. So I just wanted to let you all know that that was happening and that hopefully we'll have some news by the time we meet for full board. So, so that is good. Does anyone have any questions about that? No? Okay, great. I see that Darren has joined us, so that makes 8, right, Lucy? 3.
Correct, Tricia.
6.
Watching Bob.
Okay.
Bob, take your video off. We don't really need to see all of
No, I'm putting my head back in there. Don't worry, Lucy.
it. Okay.
Cool, Lucy. There I am. I'm a vertical now.
Thank you, Bob. All
welcome.
right. Moving on to item. I'm going to be super quick, guys, because I have to also attend the CEC meeting. The chancellor is coming to the CEC meeting of District 2 tonight at 6:30. So I need to represent at that as well. I'm hoping actually that some of you can join. High school admissions, among other things, are on the agenda, and there's a Q&A. Some of you may have already put in your questions and comments to him. I know I have. And it would be good for us to, for those of us who, are interested to be able to attend that as well. So the resolution for tonight, I was hoping to do this weekend and end up having to travel. So ones where we'll discuss some points and then I will put it together and pass it around for your review. It is pretty cut and dry. As you probably heard, the mayor, in a surprising move, decided to cut the education budget this coming yield of de Blasio, releasing the schools of their obligations surrounding enrollment during the pandemic. As you all know, the principals project how many kids they're going to have based on, their past acceptances and projected attrition by the time school starts. They then hire the teachers for the amount of children that are supposed to be showing up. And over the past couple of years with the pandemic, we have had unprecedented surprises, mostly in low enrollment, in the form of low enrollment at our schools. And so what can happen is that the principals can get strapped, having to lay off teachers, reconfigure classrooms. They're paid by the pupil and they can't afford to pay their bills if the kids don't show up. So the right thing to do was to release them from this responsibility, which de Blasio did. And again, in a shocking turn, Eric Adams said he's not going to be doing that. I'm not sure he really, respectfully knows what that means. I'm hoping that his advisors will let him know what that will look like, because I feel certain we are not going to be business as usual in September. I think a lot of families, made a permanent move during the pandemic. And I think, to be honest, I think a lot of other families lost a lot of faith in the admissions changes. And they don't trust that they're going to have an appropriate seat for their child in middle school and most importantly, Not that high school is more important than middle school, but most importantly are the failures of the high school admissions, because we had a significant amount of kids that didn't get any of their 12 choices and a large number of kids that got no choices at all. So what he is proposing, I'm going to pull up so I make sure and have exactly the right numbers. He is proposing to, he's proposing 557 million in reductions to the teaching workforce, budgets in the ranks of school safety agents. I mean, he's really cutting the numbers everywhere. This has not passed yet, it's important to say, which is why we're doing this resolution. But he is going to, oh my gosh, I pulled up the wrong one. Bear with me, everybody, I'm sorry. 375 million. So it's obviously coming at the absolute worst time. And he does plan on 4 to 5 stimulus money to the tune of $160 million. So if you will, he's taking 375 out and putting 160 back in. But we don't have the time frame for which he's doing that. We don't know how that will affect the teachers as a result. It's a bad idea any way you slice it. And we are hoping they reverse this decision as quickly as they made it. We are going to encourage them to reverse it by passing a resolution that asks that they not do it and give them a list of the reasons why. So the one obvious one is that schools will be completely strapped as a result of having to pay back any overages in the kids they accept. It could create an admissions chaos if they underdo it because they're scared of getting, or I mean, if they overdo it, scared that not a lot of kids won't show up, and they do. It will be really motivating principals to go outside their comfort zones in making offers. That's obviously not a good idea. So I'm going to cover those points. I'm going to cover the data for what happened last year and the year before in the resolution, and anything else that any of you would like to include. So let me know. I don't see any hands, but let me know if you guys have anything you'd like to add to this resolution or any questions.
I have a question. So is the assumption they're doing this, the assumption is because a lot of kids are going to private schools and charter schools? Because at least from what I'm hearing, at least 9 out of 10 people I know that are going into high school, they're putting them into Catholic, private, or charter school this year. Everybody's petrified of what happened last year. So is that the same train of thought that this administration is thinking, or they're not thinking?
No, his comment was that he thinks everything's going to be back to normal. That's his mindset tends to be there, which, you know, it's kind of shocking to hear. I don't really know what he's basing these comments on, and how he thinks it's going to be back to normal. But we haven't seen any references to, you know, urban flight, which there has been, and that's a real thing. But if there's ever a time not to cut budget, if that was his concern, it would be now. You know, so this budget cut actually more says, I think this is over. I think everybody's coming back. I think the principals will be able to count on their numbers. I don't think we're going to have any overages or underages. I think we're going to see business as usual. And that is definitely not, there could be no other explanation for a move like this. Because there's no way, Sarah, that they would be able to ever guess what percentage of public school kids are decamping for Catholic, private, and charter schools. There's no, you know, history. There's no precedent. for what those
mean,
numbers be,
until-
which is why if there was ever a time not to do this, it would be now.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And until the public school system aligns timing wise with the private school acceptance and the Catholic school, we will never know.
Exactly. We need to get back and have a couple of years where they can see a stable enrollment. You know, I mean, we have to really understand the long-term impact of this pandemic. We will only understand that with time. And just like businesses having to get back on their feet, schools have to get back on their feet. They are businesses, really. Running a school is like running a business. And, you know, they have to cover their costs. They have to make sure they can provide the programming, pay the teachers, and, you know, buy their supplies and do all those things that principals do. If you cut their budget, if they don't get that enrollment projection exactly right, then they're going to it's a kick in the stomach to a system that is already on its knees. Doesn't make any sense.
Tricia,
So my hope is that, yeah,
yeah, I would, I do want to take time after this discussion for a 10-second update on Five World Trade. But I'm a little confused because Eric Adams said he was cutting 2% of all budgets. DYCD, the Department of Aging, you know, the fire, the police. And in the past year, schools and other agencies received a lot of federal money. And I'm curious, is this budget cut baseline from, you know, before this federal money came in, or is it because the 2% is, and this is really for people, it's beyond my pay grade. Is it 2%? Is this a 2%, the 2% cut he was referring to based upon there won't be as much federal funds coming in, and this whole equation, which I never liked and which most people don't like, is the amount of students per class, and then the school gets reimbursed by that, and what you were just talking about, Tricia, that's crazy. But is this part of the overall 2% budget cut across the board based upon less money coming in to the schools and to the city?
I'm sure it is partially, Bob. I mean, you know, they have the fiscal responsibility to, you know,
Right.
just distribute those cuts, but this is more than a 2% cut. And it's mostly that what's disturbing about it is it's not a regular education budget cut, right? Like we had in 2008 when they just said, you know,
Yep.
such and such percentage cut across the board. This is a deliberate decision not to bail the schools out if they get their projections wrong. You know, this is a deliberate decision to cut funding at the exact time they need to be subsidizing the schools. The stimulus money is 160 million. That's still there,
Uh-huh.
you know, and I think that's why he feels so comfortable cutting the city budget by 375 million, is that we are
Okay.
getting 160 million. But really what he should be doing is keeping the budget flat, if not subsidizing. We have mental health issues.
Yeah.
It will take us years to dig out of this.
Yeah, thank you, Tricia.
Okay.
That was good. That was good to know that the balance between the federal and what's baseline city funding cuts. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? And I should mention that it's 160 million in stimulus this year, 80 million in next year. So
Yeah.
it tapers off too. So
Sure.
it's really going to be a problem. You know, it just is. And again, it's motivating, what's dangerous is it's motivating our principals to make decisions differently that could affect the schools and the seats available. You know, it could overcrowd schools. that's something that could be, even in a time of low enrollment, it could overcrowd schools if principals are afraid of getting stuck.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? All right, good. Also in there is going to be, in some of the discussions that I've read, we want to demand from the DE that we need to know what they are doing to address the negative impact of the pandemic in this resolution. It's good to talk about that when they talk about budget cuts, because if they are putting this budget together, we want to make sure and advocate for getting the education system back on its feet, supporting our children who really suffered over this time. We have a lot of kids that are still not going to school. I am still hearing stories of kids that were, functioning very well before the pandemic and excellent students that, are suffering terrible anxiety, having trouble getting back to school, having trouble in school. We might see a low graduation rate. We might see a change in that citywide. We might have kids, taking the grade again. We have all kinds of things that could be unprecedented that we're looking at now. And in my opinion, we need to have more resources available than ever at this particular moment if we're serious about this recovery. Luckily, he has Lorraine Grillo as his deputy chancellor, who understands this deeply. So my hopes are that, again, that someone will pull them aside. But we will be there to remind them if they don't. So with that, I don't see any hands up. You guys are all good with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I send you an email, Tam. Oh God, I have an echo. Hold on, give me a second.
Uh-huh.
I'm on my phone. I'm trying to read the notes. So okay, I got it. Tammy had wanted the high school admissions to be added to the agenda. I'm assuming this goes in conjunction together.
I'm sorry, say that again, Lucy.
Tammy had wanted high school admissions to be discussed at this meeting. I'm assuming this all goes wrapped up together.
Well, it doesn't really. I mean, I think what Tammy wants to talk about is the process. The process, it's happening right now. The deadline is next week. So that's why I would like to be able to attend this meeting that's starting like in 4 minutes and be able to report back in April on what we've learned from the chancellor tonight. There isn't anything we're going to do today to change the admissions process for this year. But we can pass a resolution next month, talking about the failures. We'll have a few more pieces of feedback from the community members that are applying to high school right now in terms of their experience with it. We can also, we did a resolution last year on it. They have changed some of the processes. There's lottery numbers, there's tiers that I'm just still wrapping my head around, to be honest. And it is creating urban flight. It's creating a lot of anxiety. And we could stand to pass another resolution. Again, it's not going to help us to do it tonight, and I don't have enough information about it tonight. So all I can say is that I'm about to learn a little bit more at the CEC meeting and hear the questions that the parents have for the chancellor and hear the chancellor respond to them, which I think will be really, valuable.
I have an 8th grader, and I could tell you it is the bizarrest thing I've ever seen. And thank God that I'm fortunate and lucky that he is at a K through 12 school at Nest. Otherwise, there was and I have an education. I understand things and I couldn't understand it, especially when they threw that lottery thing. I was like, no, I'm not doing anything else. So we can talk about it next month, definitely, but it's criminal what they did this year.
It really is. And they did it very late and it was super murky again. I think their intentions are good. They are trying to create equity. They're also trying to create a diversity in academics at all the schools, right? So they want to drop the geographic preferences. You know, they're not just in District 2, the geographic preferences, I found out. There's geographic preferences in Eastern Brooklyn and Coney Island and Queens. And, you know, I don't know how excited parents are for their kids to travel an hour to go to high school. And I think in the efforts of trying to create equity, what they're doing is creating a huge burden on parents to be assigning kids up to an hour away for high school. And so again, too much, too fast. They didn't have a plan. They're impulsively grabbing at straws. The feedback I've heard in my circles, which are community boards 1, 2, 3, and parts of Brooklyn and Queens, is that it is a disaster. I haven't heard of one person who said, hey, yeah, this is a great idea. Not one. So I think, you know, having the 4 tiers of academic levels, I think is humiliating for the children. I think the lottery number can be devastating if you have a high number. I mean, what does that even mean? We had 20% not get anything last year. So if you have one of the highest numbers, those people are leaving the city. And really, it's irresponsible, that approach to high school admissions. So again, I would like to hear from a few more people. I'd like to gather a little more information. The process is already, you know, the deadline is today or something like that, right, Sarah? So I think that I don't think there's anything we're going to do to change the high school admissions for this year, unfortunately. But we certainly can try for next year. And we'll start to get some data, which will really help us. So that's something I'll ask of the committee. If you know people in other community boards, if you know parents in other boroughs, we really would like to hear their experience with this because it's different everywhere and I want to represent. I think when we go to do this, we should really have a lot of strong, solid data.
There is a whole Facebook page on it if you want, if you're on Facebook, about the New York high school admission process. It's fascinating, and you'll get it from everywhere within the city. So
that would be helpful. I'm not on Facebook, but maybe I'll do it just to see that. Does
Okay.
Community Board 1 have a Facebook page, Lucy?
Yes, we do.
You do? Okay.
And
All right.
Sarah, if you send me the link, I'll be more than happy to get permission to place our Facebook, you know, ask them to CB1 on that, and whatever I see, I will be more than happy to forward it to Tricia.
That'd be
Okay.
great.
Mhm.
That'd be fantastic, actually. Okay, so let us vote on this resolution that is voting against the proposed budget cuts to education for next year, next school year, 2022-23.
So call the question.
Anybody second?
Second.
Second.
All right,
Oh.
Lucy, you want to take us through?
Tricia,
Yes.
Sarah, Cassell,
Oh, Cassell, yes.
Darren,
Darrell votes yes.
Darren, sorry. Eric,
Flores, yes.
Kenny. Kenny, are you with us? Thought I saw you.
I am. This is Kenny. Yes, sorry.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mullen recuse. I did want to say I reached out to COIB and they said because I'm a DOE employee, I just can't vote on anything related to the DOE, even though I do feel strongly about this one.
Yes, thank you.
Townley,
Yes.
Andrew,
Yes.
and Sarah, the public member.
Yes.
Did I miss anyone? Okay, motion carries 7-0-0-1.
Thank you, Lucy. Bob, would you like to say a few things?
Sure. I have two quick announcements. One is that on Saturday at about 11 o'clock, children can come and paint a mural for peace at the downtown community center. We've done this. We want to then paint this mural, and then we're also going to be collecting items that we are shipping through Poland to the many Polish refugees, the many Ukrainian refugees in Poland, close to 1 million people. It's unheard of. My wife is Polish. She is in Poland now and in Warsaw. It is unbelievable, she says, the need of these people that had to leave their homes in the Ukraine. So on Saturday, you can bring your kiddies to paint a mural, a couple of murals, and then if you have stuff, you could drop it off on Saturday at the downtown community center. On 5 World Trade, seems sort of crazy that we talk about these things and what's going on in Europe. And however, I'd like to catch up with Andrew Zelter. There's still some more work to do, some collaboration. We sent a letter to EDC, the Champions Sports Coalition sent a letter to EDC, and we copied all our elected officials, but we haven't heard anything from anybody. I haven't. I want to talk to Andrew at some point in the next few days, Andrew, about seeing what we could do to see if we can get an answer on what we want, and to sort of move forward on where we can get more recreation space for kids in downtown.
All right, thanks, Bob. Anyone else have any new business? Anything you'd like to put on the agenda? Any comments, questions, otherwise?
I had a teacher reach out to me, but I don't know if they're in our district. There were huge issues at 75 Morton, and they said, is the community board aware? I said, I think they're in the West Village, so they would not be under us. And I said,
They are a District 2, they're a District 2 middle school that half of our community is zoned for. So we should definitely be looking into what's going on there. So thank you for letting me know.
So I want to add to that. We run the after school program at 75 Morton Street. And let me just say this without editorializing. The word huge was used, and we just really need to understand what's going on there, because according to my staff, Cynthia, and there was an incident or 2 incidents, but it's not. I'll have more information on it. We checked on it a few weeks ago. A little of it is, Tricia, I would ask you, because I'm not an impartial party, if you would talk to CB2 chair, Janine, just and Sarah, if you'd like to talk to Janine, just get a little background on this without me, saying any more about it. But
I will. I have a call scheduled with her later.
Yeah. And then Tricia, if you want, Sarah, after you do that, let me know what you find out. I asked about it to my staff, and
well,
so
it's just, I know, Trish, you have to leave just quickly. The teacher had asked me if I can get her into other schools. They have a lot of the good teachers are putting their resume out. They want to leave because they don't feel like it's a safety issue, it's a leadership issue. So there just seems to be issues there. So it's just something we need to just look into.
Okay,
sure,
definitely. We'll definitely do that.
a little political.
Thank you for bringing that to us. I appreciate it. Anyone else? All right, early meeting today, guys. Thanks so much for coming. I'll be sending this resolution around over the weekend.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for going to the next meeting, Tricia.
Absolutely. All right, guys.
Good night.
See ya.
Night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.